my relationship with my boss, regardless of who my boss was, regardless if my boss was great or my boss was horrible, my relationship was always the same. I was going to build a relationship where they trusted me. They gave me what I needed to do my job, and then they let me do my job. That's the relationship I always had with all my bosses, right? But that same methodology and concept can absolutely be applied to other organizations that you're supposed to work with. So whether it's the Army, whether it's the Marine Corps, whether it's the Iraqi soldiers, whether it's the MPs, whether it's the Intel people, that the Intel organization that you're working with, no matter what the organization, you can build a relationship. Again, might you love that organization? No, you might not. And where I see this all the time, we see it all the time now, is with businesses. Because guess what? There's no business that's standalone. No, I should say there's very few that are completely vertically integrated businesses. I mean, like at Origin, right? We're pretty vertically integrated, but guess what? We don't grow the cotton. Like, we don't do that. We don't grow cotton. But guess what? We have a good relationship with the people that grow cotton. We have a good relationship with the people that dye the cotton. So we build those relationships with those other people. Now, I work with businesses where there's a supplier that they don't like. So guess what? They form a hostile relationship with this whole company, What good does that do them? It doesn't do them any good at all. What it means is they have no personal relationships. They form that antagonistic relationship with a whole nother organization, and it's almost impossible to overcome. So now this is something where if you don't explain that culture throughout your team, they're going to treat that other team horribly. And so if you're waiting on supplies, if you're on a construction site and you're waiting for materials to be delivered and you don't have a good relationship with the people that deliver the drywall, and now the drywall's running late for whatever reason, and you fly off the handle or whatever, you're not going to get that drywall any earlier. It's not happening. Have you ever, you know, when I call customer service, right? Customer service. I learned this when I was working for the Admiral, working for the Admiral's Aid. I'd call up, we traveled a lot, and I'd have to call up whatever, Delta or American or whoever, and I'd be trying to get whatever, seats on an aircraft or something, or a flight that was full, whatever, get him an upgrade, whatever. And, you know, I'd say, hey, how you doing? That's always, I always start off with the, because they're going, American Airline, how can I help you? And they're mad, right? They're just mad to start with.
How
like,
dare you
out
call
of the
me?
gate, out of the gate, they're mad.
And I've met lots of people who were suicidal because of that, but also unwilling to take care of themselves, you know, because they were so guilty about who they were and their mode of being in the world that they just felt that they weren't worth the damn trouble, you know, and they all had their own particular reasons for believing that, their own failures, their own improper sacrifices, let's say, their own acts of individual malevolence, but they're summed up in a lovely metaphorical manner, a horrifying metaphorical manner, in those ancient stories. And those stories explain to us, too, why as well that our consciences don't sit well with us, and why we always feel that there's something undone that we should be doing in the world, which is a much better pathway to take, by the way, than to degenerate into nihilism and catastrophe. And that's really rule 2. It's like, well, you should treat yourself like you're someone responsible for helping. And the first question is, well, why don't you? And the answer is, well, there's a lot wrong with you, you know, and it's hard to exercise enough love and care in a deep and non-naive way to care properly for something like that. But you know, you do it for people that you love despite their inadequacies, and there is this idea that there is a spark of divinity within us, and it is possible that the fact that you have that spark of divinity within you also means that you have the capability to withstand that terrible vulnerability. That's what I was trying to get at in chapter 1, which was to stand up straight with your shoulders back, that you could actually voluntarily accept the onslaught of the tragedy of being, and that you can constrain the proclivity for malevolence that's part of you and that's part of the world. And in that you can discover your own value, your own intrinsic value, and your own nobility, and And all of that might be more powerful than the forces of vulnerability and malevolence themselves.
All of us here have great minds. Most of us here have great minds, right? I don't know if I'm in the category, but we all know how to think. And with our minds, we can rationalize anything. We can make anything happen. We can, I agree with what was described a few days ago about this idea that people work in their self-interest. But we all know that you don't work in your self-interest all the time. Because when emotion comes into it, the wiring changes in the way it functions. And so it's wonderful for us to think intellectually about how the life of the world is, and especially those who are very smart. We can play this game in our head, but I really want to know what's driving you. And what I'd like to maybe invite you to do by the end of this talk is explore where you are today for two reasons. One, so that you can contribute more. And two, so that hopefully we can not just understand other people more, but maybe appreciate them more and create the kinds of connections that can stop some of the challenges that we face in our society today. They're only going to get magnified by the very technology that's connecting us, because it's making us intersect. And that intersection doesn't always create the view of everybody now understands everybody and everybody appreciates everybody. So I've had an obsession basically for 30 years. And that obsession has been what makes the difference in the quality of people's lives? What makes a difference in their performance? Because that's what I got hired to do. I got to produce the result now. That's what I've done for 30 years. I get the phone call when the athlete is burning down on national television and they were ahead by 5 strokes and now they can't get back on the course. And I got to do something right now to get the result or nothing matters. I get the phone call when the child is going to commit suicide and I got to do something right now. And in 29 years, I'm very grateful to tell you I've never lost one in 29 years. It doesn't mean I won't someday, but I haven't done it. And the reason is an understanding of these human needs that I want to talk to you about. So when I get those calls about performance, that's one thing, like how do you make a change? But also I'm looking to see what is it that's shaping that person's ability to contribute, to do something beyond themselves. So maybe the real question is, I look at life and say there's 2 master lessons. One is there's the science of achievement, which almost everyone in this room has mastered to an amazing extent. That's how do you take the invisible and make it visible, right? How do you take what you dream about and make it happen? Whether it be your business, your contribution to society, money, whatever it is for you, your body, your family. But the other lesson of life that is rarely mastered is the art of fulfillment. Because science is easy, right? We know the rules, you write the code, you follow those, and you get the result. Once you know the game, you up the ante, don't you? But when it comes to fulfillment, that's an art. And the reason is it's about appreciation and it's about contribution. You can only feel so much by yourself. So I've had an interesting laboratory to try to answer the question of the real question, which is what's the difference in somebody's life if you look at somebody like those people that you've given everything to, like all the resources they say they need. You gave them not a $100 computer, you gave them the best computer. You gave them love, you gave them joy, you were there to comfort them. And those people very often, and you know some of them I'm sure, end up the rest of their life with all this love, education, money, and background, spending their life going in and out of rehab. And then you meet people that have been through ultimate pain, psychologically, sexually, spiritually, emotionally abused, and not always, but often they become some of the people that contribute the most to society. So the question we got to ask ourselves really is, what is it? What is it that shapes us? And we live in a therapy culture. Most of us don't do that, but the culture is a therapy culture. And what I mean by that is the mindset that we are our past. And everybody in this room, you wouldn't be in this room if you bought that theory, but most of society thinks biography is destiny. The past equals the future. And of course it does if you live there. But what people in this room know, and what we have to remind ourselves though, because you can know something intellectually, you can know what to do and then not use it, not apply it. So really what we got to remind ourselves is decision is the ultimate power. That's what it really is. Now, when you ask people, have you failed to achieve something? How many have ever failed to achieve something significant in your life? Say, I. But if you ask people, why didn't you achieve something? Somebody who's working for you, or a partner, or even yourself, and you failed to achieve a goal, what's the reason people say they failed to achieve? What do they tell you?
So why do we need motivation in our life? Well, the short answer is we can't achieve our goals and our dreams without it, at least not in the long term. It's fairly easy to come up with what we want or what our dreams are. It's a whole different matter taking the action necessary to actually make those goals and dreams happen. And that's where motivation comes in. Particularly if it's some big goal or some big dream we want to achieve. That's going to take consistent action, and it may take a little while to get that done. Well, in order to be consistent with that and get it done, we need to be motivated. And if we're not motivated, I would say the first thing to look at is, are we really going for what we really want? Are those goals and dreams that we're heading toward or thinking that we want what we truly want? Because usually, if you really want something, it automatically fires up a bunch of motivation within us so we can get that thing. But sometimes that's a struggle, even though we want something, because it takes a while to get there. So that's where hiring a coach or a mentor could be really helpful, because they can help keep us motivated and keep us accountable so that we actually meet that goal. 80% of it is motivation. 20% is knowing what you want and the steps to get there. But unless you have that 80%, that motivation in place, the chances are that those goals and dreams that you wrote down on your piece of paper are never going to happen. So if you can't motivate yourself, hire someone to motivate you.
What makes you think you're gonna make it in life? Man, you gotta stop selling this stuff to this guy, man. Stop it. It's getting old. Go get that job that you let go of paying you $12 an hour and part-time get a degree. Stop taking these damn risks. We're not meant to do something big with our lives. Simple as that.
Pat, I want you to know this voice is never going away. This voice is always going to be there. No matter how much money you're going to make, it's always going to be there. The great thing about it is, though, every morning you wake up, you have a choice on which voice to listen to. But I want you to think about a completely different thing right now. Let's just say you do nothing. Let's just say you buy into your fears. Let's just say you buy into every single thing you're worried about. Let's just say you don't make any decisions to go after your dreams. Fast forward 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now. Let's just say your funeral's around the corner. You have 50 people there, 100 people there, maybe 200 people show up. These are your friends, family, and people that love you. So you'll be loved for one generation, remembered for 2 generations, and forgotten after that. Is that truly the life you want to live? Is that really what you want to do? I don't know if that's the life you really want to live. You see, what I've noticed is, no matter what you ever do, you'll have a lot of lonely times. You can lie to your family, you can lie to your friends, you can fool the world into realizing that why you didn't win was because of some challenge that you had to face. But there's one person you can never lie to, and that is the man in the mirror. You can never lie to the man in the mirror. Never. For the rest of your life, the man in the mirror is going to look back at you and say, you did not choose to go after your dreams. And you have to be okay with that. Now, what I would like to encourage you to do is to make the right choice. I encourage you to face your fears and pursue your dreams. Go pursue the dreams that matter the most to you. You only got one shot at this thing here. And if it works out, man, it's going to feel so good for you. And if it doesn't, at least you had the courage to make that decision. I hope you make the right choice.
Sometimes defeat is the best beginning. Why? Well, for one, if you're at the very bottom, there's only one way to go: up. But more importantly, if you're flat on your back mentally and financially, you'll usually become sufficiently disgusted to reach way down deep inside yourself and pull out miracles. Pull out talents and pull out abilities and pull out desires and determination. When you're flat broke or flat miserable, you'll eventually become so disgusted that you'll pull out the basic essentials required to make everything better. And it's in the face of adversity that things begin to change, that you begin to change. With enough disgust, desire, and determination to change your life, you'll start saying, I've had it. Enough of this, no more, never again. Here's where the miracle begins. I've had it. Enough, no more, never again. These words and these thoughts really rattle the power of time and fate and circumstances. And these 3 things, time and fate and circumstances, all get together and say, we can see that we have no power here. We're facing some major resolve. This guy's not going to give up. He's had it. He's done with all this nonsense. We better step aside and let this guy get by. Resolve. inspiration through disgust. But a lot of people don't change themselves. They wait for change. Circumstances to change, the government to change, life to change. What'll that do? Not much. These poor unfortunate folks accept their defeats and wallow in their self-pity. Why? Because they refuse to take control of the situation. They refuse to take control of their life, their career, their health, their relationships, their finances. They refuse to take control and take responsibility and get sufficiently disgusted to change it.
I talked about decisions in the beginning. We talked about expectations. I'm about to wrap this thing up. Listen to me. You can't make a difference until you make a decision. You better hear what I'm telling you, man. I'm talking about the secret to success. I'm always telling you how I went from one spot to the next spot. And that was it right there. Listen to me. Catch the first principle. You got to hear it. You can't make a difference until you make a decision. So, for real, some of you, man, you keep crying. You complaining about your job. You complaining about where you are financially. You complaining about your relationship. You complaining about your opportunities. You complaining. Listen to me. You murmuring and complaining. You complaining and complaining. Shut up. Stop complaining and do me a favor. If you want to make a difference, all you got to do is one thing. This is how you get started. You want something different? Listen to me. All you got to do is make a decision. That's it. And for those of you who've been making the wrong decision, all you got to do is make the right decision. But if you want to make a difference, make a decision. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? What I'm trying to do for you to take you to that next level is I'm trying to give you control of your life back. Some of you ain't got control. You talking about your job. You got control. Listen to me. Some of you talk about your economics like you ain't got no control. You got a control. I want you to know that your life right now is the sum total of your decisions. Not your mama's decision, not your daddy. Listen to me. Even if you made their decision, you decided to make their decisions. So I need you to do me a favor. I need you from this day forward for the rest of your life, make a decision.
I'm addicted to living my life. I'm addicted to just being happy as much as I possibly can. I'm addicted to helping people. I'm addicted to believing in myself when others did not. I'm addicted to understanding that sometimes when you feel that you are in a position that you can't go on, you got to have enough addiction in yourself to believe in yourself to push forward. Now, addiction comes in many different shapes and sizes. And there are a lot of people out here that are going to judge people who are addicted to things that we all know in most cases may not be helping them. But who am I or who are you to judge them? There are many people in the world right now that are suffering from many different things that you and I would never understand. But we're not here to judge, we're here to encourage. I'm here to let you know if you are suffering from something right now and it's hurting you and it's putting you down and putting you in a position where you feel that you can't go on, don't let this addiction destroy your purpose in this world. Be addicted about being powerful. Be addicted about being passionate. Be addicted about being passionate about what you believe in. Be addicted in doing the things that are going to make you better as a human being. No one said it was going to be easy. So if you're going to get addicted on being better. Find the right reasons, find the right purpose, find the right path and go towards it. Because every day, as long as you're waking up out of that bed and that sun is shining on your face, it gives you an opportunity to be unique. It gives you an opportunity to feel good about life. Be grateful. Be happy. But if you're going to be addicted of getting yourself out of that situation. Be addicted on trying to do something better with your life. Preserve your life. Reserve your life because it's yours. Yeah, there are people out there that don't want to hear a message like this. There are people out here that don't want to hear this type of truth. I'm not here to commercialize it. I'm not here to tell you that it's going to be okay, because sometimes it just won't be okay. Sometimes you just gotta struggle just a little bit and go through the circumstances that you're going through. But that doesn't mean that you got to go through it and stay in a position that is hurting you and not making you better.
Hi, welcome back to Mind Control.
Have you ever wondered why a lion is called the king of the jungle? What is that particular thing that makes lion the boss? Well, a lion remains a lion in every single circumstance. Lion doesn't fear anyone, whether there is a gazelle in front of him, or an elephant, or a dangerous crocodile ready to attack him. Now, think of a situation when a gazelle sees a lion. It freezes out of fear. On the other hand, the lion sees it as an opportunity. The difference between these two animals is their mindset. Lion always sees opportunity, while the gazelle always sees fear. Both of them are born to think this way. However, you are not born to think that way. You are human. You have control over your thoughts and brain. You can either see something as an opportunity or as fear. Now, the lion has to prove himself every single day to maintain its dominance as the king. Just like the lion, you also have to take on the mentality that you are the best. You have to show up every day to prove that you are the best. From now on, your thinking should be the same as a lion. When you wake up, you are hungry, looking for amazing opportunities out there in the world. The lion always focuses on his goals. This is the reason why he is the king. Even if the lion is facing a Cape buffalo, it doesn't think that he cannot kill the buffalo. Take the same approach whenever you face hurdles, and be the king.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Please also like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and families. Please watch our other motivational videos. Thank you again.
Forced into great introspection, existential questions of, who, what, where, when, and why, and how. I didn't have a crutch. I didn't have my car. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have a job. I didn't have money. I didn't have my parents. I didn't have friends. And I was lost in trying to find a bit of a compass and an anchor. And some odd things were going on for me in my relationships with some people there, where I was questioning my own sanity. And that moment where I was asked to call someone mom and pop, in my chaotic life and my anarchic brain that I was living in at the time, that was the first bit of real clarity that I was like, no, that is not open for discussion. All these other odd things that have been happening to me, I've been tallying up to, it must be a cultural difference. It must be a cultural difference. This was something that I went, culture my backside, man. I don't care, place, time, whatever. That's not negotiable for me. So I said no. And it was very clear, and it gave me clarity. It gave me some identity, and it was just an obvious thing to deny. That really helped with my sanity. Something that was so clear to me that was black and white. I needed that at that time in my life. It's hard to find those things in life in general. Don't trip yourself and faceplant because it's going too good. Don't get nervous. No, embrace it and stay in stride, because the uphill will be there in a minute, and you'll have to break a sweat and it'll be hard again. It's also about not creating false drama when it's not needed. And I see a lot of people do that, and I've fallen in susceptible to it as well. The drama's gonna come. Look, we all like pleasure over pain, but I think what we forget sometimes is that there's a greater pleasure that can come with going through a pain. If you go through resistance and you choose resistance at the right times, and you go through it, you have greater, more evolved pleasure on the other side of it. Look at the world a lot of our young people are living in. We're all connected, but nobody's with each other. Their world is massive. They have more outreach than any of us ever have, but they're more isolated than ever before. So it's inevitable, human nature. Me, I'm betting you, I feel sound with myself. My spirit feels good. I got 3 children and a wife. But even I'll have a different reaction if you give me a thumbs up on my comment or a thumbs down. That like, dislike comment that you put today, that's going to outlive you. It's immortal. It's permanent. You and I are not permanent. That comment is, think about before you click and what you put out. Are you putting out something today that you're going to look forward to looking back at? Are you putting out something today in your resume of life that is going to write your eulogy after you're gone, which is going to introduce you forever when you're gone? Think about it. It can affect you. And so a lot of our youth is living in that world where their emotional feelings about themselves and their own identity is based off your reaction, strangers' reactions, some of them which may not have even read or cared about what you were actually putting out and didn't care about the intent. And that can affect you. There's a responsibility to that world that millennials live in it. They need to edit and govern back themselves with what they allow themselves to be out there. Proverbial naked they are. It's like I'm sharing it all with the world. I'm sending it out to a bunch of strangers, and they're going to come back to me and let me know who I am. Would I be sitting here right now talking to you with the life I have? I'm very confident that I would have had some sort of enriched life that I felt satisfied and felt joy in living if I'd have been doing something else. But at the same time, those moments, what I can really speak to is that I manned up. I remember things that were mortal in life that I had reverence for. Fame, money, success, people. And all of a sudden, while I still respected them, instead of looking up at all of them, they came down.
The reason that I think people believe what I say is that I'm very pessimistic. Most times when you listen to someone who's a motivational speaker, let's say, it fills you with a temporary optimism, but you go home and the wiser part of you knows that mostly it's the painting over of rotten wood with a fresh coat of paint. And I tell my audiences very clearly that their life is going to be difficult, and sometimes difficult beyond both imagining and tolerance, and that is definitely in your future, if it isn't in your present. And for many people, it's in their present, and that that can be unbearable, that enough to turn you against life itself, to corrupt you, to drive you to nihilism, to drive you to suicide, and worse, to drive you to thoughts of vengefulness, of infinite scope, to not only be turned against yourself and your fellow men, but to be turned against being itself because of its intrinsically brutal, in some sense, nature. And then it's worse than that, actually, because it's not only that we suffer and that will necessarily occur, but that we all make our suffering worse because of our ignorance and our malevolence. And everyone knows that to be true. And so the discussions start, let's say, on an unshakable foundation. But then I can tell people, look, despite that, we're remarkable creatures. You know, we're capable of taking up the burden of that suffering and facing the reality of that malevolence voluntarily. We can actually do that. And all of the psychological evidence suggests, and this is independent of your school of psychology, if you're a practical psychologist, a clinical psychologist of any sort, the evidence is crystal clear that if people voluntarily confront the problems that face them and the malevolence that surrounds them, that they can make headway against it. And not only psychologically. So it's not only meaningful to do that psychologically, which it is, to confront the problems that torment you voluntarily. That's meaningful psychologically. But it's also practically useful in that you can actually solve some of the problems that beset you. And God only knows how good we could get at that. You know, I mean, I don't know what percentage of human effort is spent in counterproductive activity. You know, I'm not an absolute cynic about that, but I mean, when I talk to undergraduates, I ask them, you know, how much time do you waste every day by your own reckoning? And it's somewhere between 5 and 8 hours. I walked the students through an economic analysis of that. I said, well, you know, why don't you value your time at $50 an hour and calculate for yourself just exactly what you're doing to your future by your inability to discipline yourself. It's worth thinking through. In any case, people do waste a lot of time, and they also act counterproductively a lot of the time. Regardless, we do make progress, and we can thrive under the difficult conditions that make up our lives, and we can resist the malevolence that entices us. That's within our power, and we don't know the limits to that. And we also know that it's better to, we all know this, that it's better to live courageously than cowardly. And you can tell that too, because that's also what you tell people that you love. And we know that you should pick up your damn responsibility and move forward. Everyone knows that. It's part of our intrinsic moral nature.
Men are hunters. What we enjoy is the chase of the hunt. Now, after we capture you, we're okay with that. We're okay with that. But after day one, you're not captured. We still hunting for you. If you break down after day one and you're not in a serious relationship right now, I want you to start thinking about the pattern. If you break down too quick on the guy, what is it? What does he have? What does he have? See, you may not like what I'm about to tell you, but men are aesthetic. We're just aesthetic creatures. I love it when my wife gets jazzed up. I love it. Now, if I come home 15 nights in a row, which I do come home very late, and she's already in her favorite little gray sweat outfit, and that's all I'm seeing for 15 days, you know, I say something to my wife. I said, baby, we need to get up in the morning, have breakfast together, go somewhere, do something. But I tell her that, and she ain't got no problem. Okay, what you want to do? Because every now and then, I want to see who I ask to marry me. I don't want to come out here and bust my ass, and I don't get to see this person no more. No, what the happened to who I married? What I'm out here working for? I'm busting my ass. She's the same person, but still, you can be cute for you. That's cool. But your man also needs you to be cute for him. But let me ask you something. You have something you require of your man too. And you want it from him whether he feel like it or not now. If you want your man to be a certain way for you, he got to be that for you, don't he? If he don't, you're going to have a problem with him. Whatever it is, whether you want to see him dressed up every now and then, or you want to see him come home at a decent hour, or you want to see him be a better provider, whatever it is you want from him. You want him to treat your kids better, whatever it is you want. He got to do it now.
I should love myself. I can love myself, and so can you. I'm not different. I'm not special, but I am deserving of love. And if you can see that, if you can see that you too deserve to be yourself and be happy today, you too could be happy in your relationships. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've been through, where you come from. You can decide today to take action and start loving your true self and embracing it. Because then you'll be free to love unconditionally. You'll gain the ability to gift that power to others and change every single person in your life. There would be no problem that's too big or too hard to solve. No struggle too difficult to overcome. No crisis too overwhelming not to band together and prevail. No person too broken that cannot be mended. Change, real change, simply starts with you.
I know.
True love. True love.
You outsource most of your sanity because it's too complicated. And so what you do is your parents raise you to be vaguely acceptable to other people. And then you're surrounded by other people your whole life. And then every time you go off the rails a little bit, even just a little bit, people signal to you. Like you make a joke, it's not that funny, and people don't laugh. And you think, oh, well, you know, I should probably rethink my sense of humor a little bit or pay more attention. Or you tell a rambling story and you notice that everyone's like lost in the distance. And so if you're civilized enough so that people don't shun you, and you have people around you, then they're going to be always telling you how to not be too insane. Well, if you're alone, you drift.
Right.
You drift,
Right.
you know, and you'll drift in the direction of your biggest weakness. And so, you know, there are some people, maybe they're introverted and disagreeable. They're not cut out for a lot of social contact. But we're social animals, man, right to the core.
Sure.
And it's a suboptimal solution for the vast majority of people. I think that people are having a harder time finding, like, let's call them more permanent relationships, is because it's become increasingly easy to have fleeting, casual sexual relationships. I mean, Tinder is a revolution, right? It's a revolution in sexual behavior, and it's certainly not obvious that it's
Is it a social thing? Is it just technology? Is this what people want to be doing? Because you think the
It's
fleeting,
easier.
yeah,
in some ways.
but the technology has enabled this fleeting sexual.
Oh,
activity.
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And that's,
But-
we don't want to underestimate how radical a technology that is. That's
Right.
especially for men.
I do feel that deep down that all these people, men and women alike, are always longing for something more meaningful.
Well, I think that that's generally the case. I mean, you know, part of the reason for a relationship is sexual contact, obviously. Well, that's you don't necessarily need a relationship for that. But that's not the reason to be with someone. The reason to be with someone, when there's a lot of them. So one is, well, kids who have two parents do far better, period. The data on that is crystal clear. Doesn't mean that there aren't many single parents who struggle to do a wonderful job.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing. It's an average issue. So you need, plus, it's a lot of work to have kids. You know, you kind of need to divide up the labor, especially in the first year or two, you know, because the woman is completely overwhelmed in the first year, and she needs somebody around to take care of her while she's taking care of the kid, fundamentally, or at least that's the way it looks to me. So there's that. You need the stable basis for children, and it takes them a long time to mature, and they need to learn that relationships are trustworthy, right? So there's utility and stability there. But then also, you kind of want to tangle your life together with someone, you know, because you have someone to, well, it's like two ropes that are tangled together. It's stronger, especially during times of weakness. And you have two brains instead of one, and that actually turns out to be really helpful when things are complicated. And it builds a solidity into your life and a reality into your life to have someone who's along with you on this very long voyage. And so I think that deepens your life in a way that isn't really possible with fragmentary relationships as a single person.
Definitely.
And then there's more to it than that. It's like, I think of wrestling. There's this scene in the Old Testament where Jacob wrestles with an angel. He's wrestling with God, actually, which is quite an interesting, that's what Israel means, right? Wrestling with God. Yeah, that just blew me away when I learned it. It's so
Is that true?
The true people of
Hebrew?
Israel are those who wrestle with God.
Wrestle
Yeah,
with
it's
God.
not believe exactly. It's a whole different thing, man. It's a whole different thing. And
Isn't
so,
it like fear from God? What it means? That's what I thought.
well, it did from the work I did in the last couple of months looking at this, and I looked into it quite deeply. It does mean wrestling, essentially, and it does derive from that scene in the Old Testament where Jacob wrestles with God. That's when he gets the name Israel. And his hip is dislocated, right? Permanently. He has a permanent limp after that. It's no joke. But I think of marriage the same way. Like, people think, well, they lived happily ever after. It's like, that's not what you want in a marriage.
Yeah.
You want someone to contend with, you know, because you learn through that wrestling, you know, like you learn where you're an idiot and where you should stop being, and vice versa. So that's the spiritual aspect of marriage. It's the fact that you have to contend with someone under all sorts of circumstances, theoretically is what would you say? It's a manner of promoting psychological, or you could say spiritual growth. And it's genuine. You know, that's why marriage is a sacrament in most human communities, right? It's stamped both by the state and by the sacred authorities, because it's not just a physiological union. That's what animals do. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with the physiological union, but it has to be placed in the context of everything else a human being is. And I do think it's dreadful for people not to have that. And
do you think it's become harder for people to have meaningful, lasting relationships, or has it always been this hard. I feel like I thank God that I'm not dating now, because I feel like it seems like it's miserable out there right now.
Well, it's
to
hard.
try to meet people.
It is hard although, it's easier to meet people because there's more ways of meeting them.
Right.
But the ways of meeting them are more shallow. In my clinical practice, I would say that the rise of the internet dating option has actually overall been good for people who are looking for a partner.